Okay, so this is the same, so I'm gonna skip past this. Serendipity introduced me to Hachiro Iba, a Bakushin who had served in the city of Kyoto. We became acquainted during his frequent visits to the Shinsengumi, and as we engaged in conversation, we discovered that we were in fact childhood friends. Oh my god, it's the childhood friend route! Oh my god, now I'm more excited about this. Our situation, however, became increasingly dire. Anti-shogunate sentiments were growing intensely throughout the country, and the war between the shogunate and the Satsuma Choshu seemed inevitable. Then finally, okay, this is the same. Oh? Okay, so the first half, I guess we don't know what happened. A selfish, ruthless ex-captain of the Shinsengumi, Kanryusai Takeda, loathed Iba, and each warrior had an arm brutally severed in 2 separate duels? He had his arm cut off? Okay. Iba, as a descendant of a famous sword dojo, had a reputation to uphold. Thus, he became a fury and fused a demon's arm to his shoulder in order to resume fighting? What? Which demon? Whoa, this is so exciting. Although Iba had conquered over Takeda in a decisive duel in Toba Fushimi, the battle itself resulted in a defeat for the Shinsengumi and other shogunate allies. He looks so handsome. After parting ways with Iba at Osaka Castle, I departed for Edo alongside the distressed Shinsengumi men. Oh, so I'm not even with him. Amazing. Medium rare. I like the red. Yeah. Well, not too red, but I like the reddish pink, I guess. Would be medium rare. Oh, I used to eat medium. Okay, February 1868. Every time I shut my eyes, I could hear the deafening blasts of cannon fire from the Battle of Toba Fushimi. Although the Shinsengumi and I were miles away in Edo, upon our arrival, our forces regathered at an inn run by the city's Hatamoto called the Kama Inn. But by the end of January, thanks to Hichikata, the Shinsengumi were permitted to use a shogunate-run mansion to house their men as a new headquarters. This should be interesting.
Yukimura-kun, 今日松本先生のところに行っていたということですが。
Like, whose demon arm did he take? Oh, thanks for following Jacket Shirt. Appreciate the follow. And welcome.
怪我をした大使たちの様子はどうでしたか?
Thankfully, according to the doctor, none of them seemed to be in critical condition. For Kondo, however, there may still be some time until his shoulder is fully recovered. Okay, so this is when the captain got attacked.
そうでしたか。わかりました。副長にもそう伝えておきます。
Anyway, Shimada, how is Hichikata doing?
副長は薩長との再戦の許しを得るため、連日江戸城に途上なさっていますが。
Who are the Sacho? A shorthand slang term referring to the Satsuma Choshu's group. Okay.
幕臣の方々からはなかなかいい返事をいただけない様子で。それでは、俺はそろそろ失礼します。
Oh yes, okay, thank you very much. Shimada grinned, bowing his head before spinning around to walk away from me, but his head perked up as if he just remembered to tell me something, and he turned back around.
そういえば、今まで言うのを忘れていましたが、ありがとうございます。
Oh, sorry. Huh? Why are you thanking me? I haven't done anything.
俺一人ではきっとこれだけの仕事をこなすことなどできなかったと思います。大使ではない君にいろいろと用事を頼んでしまって申し訳ない気持ちはあるのですが、それ以上にありがたいという思いの方が強いので、今のうちに伝えておこうと思って。
I like Shimada. He's kind of like an uncle or a dad in this game. Oh, you don't have to thank me for that. I should be the one thanking you. All this time, you all have been so generous and thoughtful. I consider it a given to return the favor.
そう言ってもらえると助かります。それでは、俺はこれで。
Blush appeared faintly on Shimada's round cheeks as he skipped out of the hallway. Ever since the unfortunate loss of Yamazaki during the Battle of Toba Fushimi, Shimada has shouldered the entire burden of duties assigned to the Shinsegumi's watch division. Oh, right. In some storylines, Yamazaki, who is the ninja of the Shinsengumi, he dies trying to protect the Shinsengumi. Neither Nakakura nor Harada could emerge from their funk after suffering serious devastating trauma from the battle, and they often went into town to drink. As for Heisuke, he only roamed the compounds long after the sun had set, usually engaging in some deep meditative contemplation. It was the kind of meditation that was best left undisturbed, evidenced by the lines of worry on his face, so I refrained from approaching him to converse. Hajime Saito assisted Dr. Matsumoto with his infirmary work and was busy transferring injured soldiers to and from other clinics, so we rarely entered discussion. Although in my heart I knew that it couldn't be helped. The Shinsengumi was beginning to drift apart, fraying ever so slightly at the seams. Oh wow, everybody's so... Oh, the brotherhood's gone in this story. More than anything, what tugged at my heart was not having had a chance to reunite with Iba, whom I hadn't seen ever since we exchanged our bittersweet farewells at Osaka Castle. Ooh, he looks beautiful with white hair and red eyes. Okay. Becoming a Fury had its punishing limitations, including an aversion to sunlight that made enjoying the simple pleasures of human life impossible. How could he manage, I wondered, to balance these restrictions in tandem with his position as a Bakushin? Perhaps at a more appropriate time I could attempt to write Iba a letter and piece together words that could convey just how much I missed his company. Aww. If I were to ask Dr. Matsumoto for an address, then surely I could turn his endeavor into a reality. Days in Edo were oft stretched into tedium. I had been working on a cross-stitch, being careful not to prick my fingers, when my sliding door flew open and broke my sturdy concentration. And then...
Yukimura, ここにいたのか?
Oh. Oh, hello, Saito. Are you well? What brings you to my room today?
松本先生からあんた宛ての手紙と荷物を預かっている。
A package. Saito coolly pulled a folded piece of parchment along with a small wrapped pouch from his pocket. Thank you.
確かに渡したぞ。
Oh, I miss Saito already, even though it's only been 2 weeks. Saito spoke curtly and left my bedroom without muttering another word. Without waiting, I hastily opened the letter. My eyes raced down the page, and I felt my heart flutter as I savored every word of his reply. Dr. Matsumoto wrote about a medicine he'd produced to satiate the Fury's bloodlust, and he mentioned his hope that I would make use of it. With this in mind, I unwrapped the small pouch. There's no use giving me this because I never use it. Its contents included a few tiny wrapped bags of compressed powder, which I took to be the medicine. Dr. Matsumoto warned, however, that the medicine provided only a temporary reprieve. As of now, there have been no successful attempts to wholly eradicate bloodlust in Fury test subjects. For Father, who had dedicated almost the entirety of his tenure in Edo to researching the water of life, perhaps he could point us in the right direction, or so Dr. Matsumoto had hypothesized. Tenure in Edo. I came to an epiphany, realizing that documents pertaining to the water of life could have been stashed somewhere in my old childhood home. Just as the thought crossed my mind... Who's that? A familiar voice called from outside my window. I frantically stuffed the letter and pouch into my shirt pocket and bolted to the entrance gate. When I reached the gate, my heart jumped, seeing that the person calling out had been...
Konnichiwa. Gobusata.
Oh, he has a beautiful voice too. Iba! He formed a friendly smile with his mouth, and I screamed out his name, and from his pocket he pulled out a letter packaged in fine stationery. You know what? He kind of looks like the male version of Sailor Jupiter. With the ponytail and the green and the... Oh my god.
手紙ありがとうございました。返事を書こうと思ったんですけど、
Ooh, this voice.
直接ここに来る方が早いと思って来てしまいました。
How are you feeling? Doesn't the sunlight make you feel unwell?
とりあえず普通の人間のふりをすることができるくらいには健康です。
Ah, I see. You've no idea how happy I am to see you. Eva was incredibly resilient, at times to the point of stubbornness, so there was a chance that he could simply be feigning feeling well for my sake. But his complexion glowed, amplified by his cheerful disposition, and I had no reason to refute him. Even so, escaping the kiss of sunlight was as futile as dodging rain in a storm, so my doubts remain. Would you care to come in? I can brew you some tea if you like.
ありがとうございます。それじゃあお言葉に甘えて。
Oh, do you see his arm? If you guys look down where the text is, his arm is like looks like a skeleton hand. That's interesting. He's like the nice character. Eva bowed his head and I escorted him inside, going to the kitchen to pour fresh tea from the kettle into a pot before fixing a plate of cookies for him.
手間を取らせてすみません。早速いただきます。
He's so polite. He's like a gentleman. Eva exhaled over the steaming teacup and smiled as he took a tiny nibble of the cookie from the tray.
そういえばあの後、武田さんがここに来たりはしましたか？
No, in fact, the last I had seen of him was back at Toba Fushimi.
それを聞いて安心しました。まだ油断はできませんけどね。しかし今日の豚書に比べると随分静かですね。他
Oh, sorry, Eva. That is a good question. As of late, everyone has been so busy, many of the men are out working. Especially Hijikata. He is either locked up in his room writing letters to the shogunate Bakushin, or he is out somewhere in Edo Castle delivering them. Eva?
はい。何でしょう。
I'm not sure. That's what I was asking you. You seemed lost in thought.
ええ。まあ、いろいろと考えることがあって。すみません。せっかくあなたと一緒にいるのに考え事なんて
Aww.
もったいないですよね。
I'm gonna read it out. Spending time with you is such a luxury that it would be a waste to let my mind wander so easily, wouldn't it? That is so sweet. Well, no, I didn't mean it like that. I wondered what thoughts plagued Iba's mind. Was he, too, still sore over the recent defeat back in Kyoto? Or was he distracted by something related to his new status as a Fury? Or perhaps he was still adjusting to his new hand, which had been wrapped in cloth. Oh, so it wasn't a skeleton hand, it was just wrapped in cloth. I imagined it to be the latter, considering the duel had likely been fresh in his mind, an eternal reminder of the grudge between himself and Takeda. A feeling of guilt bubbled in my stomach. I couldn't help but feel responsible for his situation, so I wondered what I could do to make things right. Oh, I know. I instantly recalled the letter and medicine that Dr. Matsumoto had sent to me. Eva, it may interest you to know that Dr. Matsumoto had some medicine delivered to me. Apparently, it has the power to suppress bloodlust. According to a letter he'd attached to it, though, it isn't a perfect cure. It has its limits. I guess curing bloodlust isn't feasible right now, but I thought of something. If we were to search through the house where my father and I used to live, we might be able to find some of his research notes to aid the process. If somehow we could unearth a formula or recipe related to the water of life, then the likelihood of developing a cure increases, meaning that when Eva is stricken with a bout of bloodlust, we can deal with it immediately. I know this is a sudden imposition, so if you have plans or something after this. At first, Eva was silent, twirling the teacup in his hand.
いえ、そんなことはありませんよ。三男さんや東堂君のためにも詳しい資料を手に入れておきたいところですよね。わかりました。僕も一緒に行きましょう。
Okay, but first let me get approval from Sanan. I'll just be a minute, so please excuse me. Eva closed his eyes as he nodded, and I stood up from the table and began walking to Sanan's room. Ooh, how's Sanan in this story? Is he like crazy or normal?
報道さんの資料を探しにですか。大したものが見つかるとは思えませんが、まあいいでしょう。
He seems normal.
伊庭くんが護衛してくれるというのなら、危険な目に遭うこともないでしょうしね。
I bowed gratefully to Sanan and went back to find Eva gazing at trees sitting beyond the window, and the two of us set off for the outskirts of Edo. Wow. It had been quite some time, nearly 4 whole years, since I'd set foot anywhere near my old home, so I couldn't help myself from blurting out. The yard was barely recognizable as I pushed open the creaky gate. Everywhere that Eva and I stepped, overgrown weeds crackled below our feet. I'm not sure what I expected, but I didn't think the house would fall into disrepair so quickly. How long has it been since you've been here, Eva? Can you remember back that far? Eva?
ああ、すみません。久しぶりなので懐かしくて。
I feel like he has a very sad backstory. Or he had a sad childhood or something. Huh? I understood there being a lot to take in, even if the yard itself was an eyesore, but something told me what Eva was concerned with was far more serious. He furrowed his brow in quiet contemplation. I darted my eyes around the yard, hoping to pin down what might have distracted him, but I was too nervous to ask him myself. I grazed my hand against the paint peeling beside the front door, slowly leading my fingers from the wall to the door handle, greeting the dust as I slid it open. Eva, right this way. I have to apologize for the mess, though.
はい。それじゃあ、お邪魔します。
Observing Eva in his unsettled mood was tearing me apart, and I was desperate to know what caused it. The idea of initiating the conversation was practically dangling in front of me, and, as his childhood friend, I felt compelled to comfort him. Dust coated every surface in the house, clinging to our fingers and our clothes as we parsed through the multiple stacks of notes and documents. However, neither of us were certain of what it was that we were even looking for, nor did we have the insight to tell what was useful and what was not. Man, all of this stuff is so foreign to me, it might as well be in another language. I'm so sorry, Eva. You took time out of your day to help me, and we don't even have anything to show for it.
あなたが謝ることじゃありませんよ。気にしないでください。
Give me a quick second. I'm gonna look up who does the voice of Hachiro Eva. I think it might be the guy who voices my favorite Yuta Pri character. He sounds really familiar. If it is, he's my new favorite character. Okay, let's see. Voiced by Mamoru Miyano. Oh, I think it is. Hold on. Mamoru. My heart's beating right now. My acting career. Oh my god, it is. Lend me, it is him. Oh my god. New favorite character. Okay. I like this character so much. When I went to Japan, I got a little figurine of him. It's that guy right there. Okay, let me continue. Let me drink some water, calm down, and continue. The melancholy in his eyes felt thicker than the dust around us. It was like I was speaking with a shadow. It wasn't my place to ask, nor did I expect him to tell me, even if it was, but I could no longer stand it. Did something happen, Eva?
何かというのは
Just look at you. You aren't as responsive as you normally are. Would you like to talk about it? Maybe if you open up, I could help you work through it. But if you don't really want to talk about it, then you don't have to, of course. Eva's eyes shifted away from me, and I became insecure in thinking that I had struck a nerve.
すみません。本当はあなたに落ち込んだ顔なんて見せたくなかったんですけど。
I'm melting in his voice.
このところ幕府の重臣の方々と意見の違いを感じることが多くて。
You haven't seen eye to eye? How so?
江戸に戻ってきてからトシさんは連日江戸城で 幕臣との面談を重ねていますが、今の幕府には薩長との間にこれ以上波風を立てたくないと考える人間が多いんです。トシさんが何度面談を申し込んでも平気で約束を反故にしたり、あちこちたらい回しにしたり。
That's so mean. What? In the past, the shogunate, along with some pompous domain officials, had written off the Shinsengumi's attempts to legitimize themselves in the public sphere. Hearing Iba speak about the practice still taking place, despite the Tokugawa clan teetering on the brink of destruction, explained why he seemed so fresh.
同じ幕臣として恥ずかしいです。名家の出だ旗本だと言いながら、皆考えているのは保身ばかりで、一人として薩長の謀反を咎めようともしないなんて。
Iba, for as long as I'd known him, was a clever, forthcoming, and orderly gentleman. Yes, he is. Oh, actually, his character is very similar to Tokia and Yutapri, like a gentleman and very, polished. For him to work in the company of those who hadn't shared any of his ambition or empathy, it produced a moral dilemma that called into question what or whom Iba had been fighting for all along. Oh, that's right, because he's there. I brought my hand under my chin, stroking it as I searched for words to make him feel better. Don't be so hard on yourself, Iba. I'm sure that Hichikata will eventually be able to work something out, something for all of us. Mind you, this isn't the first time the Shinsengumi had been treated this way, and it certainly won't be the last. I should have went with my gut instinct, because I was like, I see isn't very consoling. My words had seemingly gotten through to Iba, and his expression finally seemed to soften up.
そうでしたね。トシさんはこれぐらいの苦境で音を上げるような人ではありませんし。
Seeing Iba offer a genuine smile in response made my heart race and relief washed over me. I'm so glad.
何がです？
I was worried about you, to be honest. You didn't seem like your usual self earlier. But that smile is more like it. You're beginning to look like the Iba I remember. Pixel. You know, all of that explains so much. I can imagine feeling pretty anxious about that too. Iba shied away from me all of a sudden, turning his head off to the side with pursed lips.
悩んでいた理由はそれだけではないんですけど。
Huh? What else is there? Iba flipped through a stack of documents beside us nonchalantly, which incited my curiosity. I watched him absent-mindedly draw circles on the dusty table with his left index finger before he turned to look at me. Before I could ask him, however, Iba reached for me all of a sudden. Oh, he probably has feelings for me already. And then Iba tackled me, pinning me to the floor before I could react, kicking up a cloud of dust that tickled my nose. What? What? I thought he was attacking me because his bloodlust was... Okay then. His left hand throbbed as it forcefully gripped me, and I trembled underneath him. Iba, what are you doing? Sweat began to trickle down my spine, and under his weight, I could barely draw breath. Once I had finally asked him what he was doing, he ignored my answer completely. Ooh. We were face to face, and he didn't even blink as our eyes locked together. Eagerness flamed inside of them, though his eyes had seemed more ravenous than passionate. Ooh. As my body shivered in alarm under the mass of his muscular frame, he eventually shut his eyes and inched his supple lips slightly closer to mine. That word is so funny. It makes me crack up every time I read it out loud. I froze, partly out of feeling powerless, but mostly because I wasn't recognizing what was happening. Even if I'd wanted to push him off of me, however, I couldn't budge one bit. At this rate, he's going to... As I braced myself to feel our lips touch, I heard an audible gulp squeak from his lips. Then Iba leapt back, his face becoming pale and rigid from shock, and his left arm snapped back to his wayside. Oh, it must be his demon arm. That's interesting.
僕は今何を
Oh. Iba lowered his head, shaking timidly in front of me as his eyes slowly regained their usual color.
すみません僕はなんてことを
It's okay. Iba had flustered so badly that guilt began to well inside of me, and I was hesitant on how to respond. My heart was pounding at a frightening pace, leading me to believe it would burst outward at any moment. Iba, a figure of propriety and class, was the last person I'd ever expect to force himself onto me. Yeah, see? I wondered what inspired him to do so. What was he planning to do? Questions swirled in my mind as Iba madly panted. He must have been equally confused, and by virtue of his grave demeanor, I thought it better not to ask.
戻りましょうか新選組の人たちもきっと心配しているでしょうし
You're right. Let's go. I took a last gander around the house, eyeing corners of sentimental value, when Iba slammed his hand onto the table before falling to his knees and grimacing in extreme comfort. Iba?
大丈夫です静かにしていれば時期に収まりますから
Not bad, not bad. Could this be Iba? Is it... Do you need blood? His shoulders jerked unexpectedly. The muscles in his neck strained as he painfully turned his head towards me, which was enough to affirm my suspicions. He was displaying an admirable degree of control, giving me the impression that this wasn't his first experience with a bout of bloodlust. Oh, yes. Somehow I remembered the medicine mentioned by Dr. Matsumoto and dug into my pocket to grab it. According to the doctor's letter, consuming the medicine could temporarily stave off the symptoms of bloodlust. I knew, though, that there was no guarantee of its effectiveness, nor could I vouch for its potency. What I did know was that blood was an immediate deterrent, and with my healing abilities, I was nonplussed about inflicting harm upon myself. What should I do? Okay. Perhaps Iba would be resistant to the idea of doing so, but in dire circumstances, I saw no other way. Iba, come here. Take a drink of my blood. Ooh, guys, where do you think he's gonna bite? I hope it's not something stupid like the back of the ear. As the words escaped my mouth, his eyes widened incredulously as sweat dripped down the sides of his contoured cheekbones.
何を言っているんですかそんなことできるはずがないでしょう
Oh no, he's disgusted! But the longer you wait, the more it hurts, right? Don't worry about me. My flesh heals itself faster than you think. Please, just do it.
そういう問題ではありません僕はあなたの血なんて飲みたくはないそんなことをするぐらいなら狂い死にした方がよほどマシです
Iba, for all of his charm, was a stubborn one. But as the blood drained from his face and he gnashed his teeth on the verge of collapse, I decided that I'd had enough and wanted to take matters into my own hands. I unsheathed my kodachi from my hip and slid the finely honed edge against the side of my neck. Pixel! Ow! I felt a hot sting as blood dribbled down my neck. Please, Iba, before the cut seals back up. He winced in response to the sight of me cutting myself, and his face scrunched with a sourness that exceeded any time he himself had been injured. Eventually, he relented.
約束してください血を飲み終えるまで決して僕の方を振り返らないと浅ましく血をすする姿なんてあなたには見られたくありませんから
I nodded curtly, touching my hand to my neck to ensure that the cut hadn't closed itself yet. After a moment of hesitation, Iba wrapped his arm around me gently, and I felt the tickle of his shallow breaths as he tepidly stuck his tongue out to lick. I mean, I get an image. I get a CG, so... My body shivered as his moist lips wrapped around the bleeding cut, and I squeaked out involuntarily. I squeaked out, guys. I don't know, I'm very happy with that picture. No, I'm fine. Trust me, this is nothing. As his mouth pinched against my neck, I felt a dull pressure stinging me, but I didn't want to guilt him. I like the way he's holding. He's kind of like embracing me, and then his hand... anyways. As always, Iba saw right through me, and I knew that any pain I'd felt paled in comparison to his own. More importantly, the pleasure I took in soothing his agony was enough of a distraction. Iba took in a long, vigorous sip of blood, and soon his shallow breathing seemed to stabilize. Your breathing has calmed down a bit. Good, that's what I wanted. Iba stopped himself from venting and licked his lips before wiping them with the back of his hand. Perhaps I had deserved the blame, and I worried about whether or not forcing Iba to drink my blood overstepped the boundary between us. Okay, next time I'm gonna give him medicine. An awkward silence floated between the two of us, and I straightened my kimono as we prepared to leave. Definitely should have given him medicine. Iba and I were greeted by the mellow glow of sunrise as we completed our lengthy trek back to the compounds. Oh, you can't keep beating yourself up. Things happen, and I'm just happy I was there for you. Iba smiled uncomfortably, keeping his shoulders slumped as he squinted toward the rising sun. The two of us exchanged timid bows, and Iba gazed at me forlornly before sauntering beyond the gate. As I watched his back shrink in the distance, the evening's events all came rushing back to me. Each one had been oddly upstaged by the next. That's right. Iba's bold imposition seemed so out of character. I fixated on it, swirling the memory around in my thoughts, like a stray leaf floating in a cup of tea. If Iba hadn't possessed the wherewithal to stop himself in the middle of it, then we would have... I noticed myself blushing and felt ashamed for having even fantasized about what had happened. In an effort to distract myself, I stared up at the sky as it gradually brightened, forming playful images of the cumulus clouds grouped in thick bunches. Had something gotten into him? Or did Iba have feeling... No. Thinking about it could only hurt me, and I stepped back into the compounds to rest after the long, arduous night. Orders came from the shogunate for the Shinsengumi to march to Kofu, and in order to detract any unwanted attention, they became the Koyo Regulatory Company. Once word of the new order spread throughout the group's ranks, the entire compounds erupted in chaos as every able-bodied soldier scrambled to prepare.
Yukimura, 支度はできたな。じゃあ行くぞ。
Betty, this is your favorite character, Hijikata. Alright, I'm ready. As a show of support, the shogunate outfitted the Shinsengumi with a slew of rifles, cannons, and most notably, westernized uniforms. It was an unexpected change. I barely recognized any of the Shinsengumi men in their new attire. Oh no, I won't get to see my man in this new attire. It's so sad. For myself, however, I had been ordered to remain in Edo, which was understandable, if not discouraging. Even so, Edo was an unsafe place for a young woman, what with the Fury Corps on the prowl. So it had been decided that I would await their return in Iba's custody within his humble abode. Ooh.
そういやお前、Hachiroの家に行くのは初めてだった。
Is it? Yes, when we were children, it was Iba who had often visited us, not the other way around.
そうか。なら驚いて声が出なくなっちまうかもしれねえな。
Why? What does that mean? Make sure to keep your jaw off the floor? And why is he giving me that look? What do you mean by that?
ついてくればわかるさ。ほら、行くぞ。
Does he live in a fancy house?
トシさん待ってましたよ。中へどうぞ。
He looks the same. He's not wearing Western clothing. The sun gleamed as we found Eva standing outside of an ornate gate encircling a huge, lavish mansion. He lives in a mansion, guys. Oh my god.
どうしたんです？
この屋敷のあまりの大きさに驚いて声も出ねえんだとよ。
Despite Hichikata's sarcastic mockery, he was right. Though not about fitting my belongings, I was entranced by the sheer size of Iba's estate. His lush courtyard rivaled the neighborhood in which I had grown up by nearly twofold, and that wasn't including the remainder of his enormous property. Suddenly, I had a greater sense of Iba's status as a Hatamoto, realizing what entailed being heir to one of the most illustrious dojos in the country.
そんな驚かなくてもいいのに。僕はたまたまこの家に生まれただけなんですから。さあ、入ってください。今日は元山も来ていますよ。
Who's that? A close affiliate of Hachiro Iba's, who works as one of the Tokugawa shogunate Hatamoto. He later serves as the Yugeki unit with Iba. I don't know who you are, but you're kind of cute too. As Hijikata and I stepped foot inside of Iba's elegant home, Motoyama rushed to stand and greet us.
あ、こりゃどうもご無沙汰してます。土方さん。
Why is everyone so beautiful in this game?
別にかしこまる必要はねえよ。普通にしてろ、普通に。
これでも一応普通にしてるつもりなんですけど。
軍兵衛さんの姿が見当たらねえが、さしずめ将軍さんの護衛で上野にいるのか。
Okay, wait. Oh. Oh, so Iba's adoptive father. Interesting.
はい。今この屋敷にいるのは僕と何人かの使用人ぐらいです。
だとよ、雪村。気兼ねする必要もなさそうだし、ちょうどいいじゃねえか。
I mean, I'm also in a mansion full of men, but okay. I sincerely appreciate your generous hospitality.
こちらこそよろしくお願いします。
Iba flashed a genial smile and turned over to Hichikata before addressing him directly.
トシさん、今回の戦に勝つ見込みはどれくらいなんですか？
そいつはちとわからねえな。城さえ取られなきゃ負けはしねえはずだが、おば伏見の時と同じで戦ってのはやってみなきゃわからねえところもあるから。
そうですか。本当ならあなた方だけに戦わせるのではなく、幕臣の我々が率先して範を示すべきなのでしょうね。それなのに。
何言ってやんる。お前ら旗本の役目は将軍を守ることだろうが。それに暴れる機会はすぐ来るさ。俺たちが作ってやるよ。
はい、信じています。
そんじゃ雪村のことをよろしく頼んだぜ。
I am not a troublemaker. Hichikata's eyes darted towards me, and he sneered coyly before rushing out of the mansion without another. He knows. He sneered coyly. This man trying to play matchmaker. Immediately following Hichikata's departure, Iba kept his head pointed towards the floor, sinking into an inexplicable foul mood.
なあ、伊庭、元気を出せよ。確かに今の幕府のやり方には俺だって納得してないけど、あの土方さんがああ言ってたんだ。俺たちが幕臣らしく戦える機会はすぐ来るさ。
However, Motoyama's optimism was unreciprocated by Iba, who had his own matters to worry about. I expected it go beyond the shogunate's faulty method of leadership or the Bakushin's reluctance to participate in a war with insurmountable odds of victory. There is no turning back, and the life you lived as a human would cease, for you cannot interfere with human history. Princess Sen's stern warning from those distant months gone by immediately sprang to mind, and I was sure that they hadn't escaped Iba either. Which means that even if the Bakushin were to change their minds, Iba would be forced to observe from the shadows, forbidden from entering the fray. I carefully chose how I'd wanted to respond. Iba, since I'll have to remain in your care for some time, I would be more than happy to help with chores around the house, or prepare you dinner whenever you'd like. All you have to do is ask.
へえ、よかったじゃないか、イバ。雪村さんの手料理だって。
He's embarrassed. I'm pretty sure he has feelings for me already. Maybe like from when we were kids. Are there any preferences you have for dinner? Don't hesitate to let me know.
いえ、あなたは客人ですし、そんなことをさせるわけには。
He's probably getting nervous because the girl that he loves is going to prepare him dinner. Yeah.
なんだよ、遠慮しなくてもいいのに。誰にも邪魔されず新婚気分を味わういい機会じゃないか。
This friend, I like him. To revel in the pleasures of a honeymoon without anyone else to impede on your celebration. And the music changed too. Honeymoon?
元山、何を言ってるんですか。彼女が僕のお嫁さんになんて。僕はまだ修行中の身ですよ。
Yeah, besides, I'd never be good enough for Iba.
つまりどっちも自分なんかじゃ相手に釣り合わないって言ってるわ。
Oh my god, this friend. Perfect wingman right here.
もう心が通い合ってるってことか。仲が良くて羨ましいよ。
That's so awesome.
そんじゃお邪魔虫はそろそろ退散するかな。
Off I go. Motoyama. I sought desperately to clear the air before Motoyama had a chance to escape, especially before Iba took his sentiments to heart, but with a gleeful smile, Motoyama pranced out of the room. Iba and I were left alone, letting the bouncing echoes of the past conversation fill the room's vast empty space.
さっきの言葉は気にしないでくださいね。
Oh, this is so cute. What he said?
ですから、その新婚だとかなんとか。
He.
元山はああいう悪い冗談が好きなんです。
Iba's incessant politeness was only exacerbating the tension hovering between us, and I continued to blush. Yes, I understand quite well. It reached the point that I would have rather buried my head underground than meet Iba's line of sight.
とりあえず、あなたの部屋に案内しますね。こっちです。
Iba fumblingly stepped around me, and I took a deep breath before following him into a wide, grand hallway. That was cute. After unpacking my things, the two of us ate supper together in silence in the dining hall before going our separate ways to rest in our respective bedrooms. I found it impossible to sleep as my attention was drawn to the room's extravagant decor, which was far nicer than any accommodations I'd ever slept in. I wondered if Iba was having any difficulty sleeping. As I rolled over, bundling myself in the futon satin sheets, I couldn't help but think about him. Oh, considering what I had known about Furies, traveling in sunlight should have been a strenuous ordeal for Iba. But judging how adeptly he'd done so during our trip to my home on the outskirts of Edo, one wouldn't be able to notice any significant change in his stamina. It was a testament to his will, proving that he was ever full of surprises. However, just like I had seen in members of the Shinsegumi's own Fury Corps, the signs of bloodlust were gradually encroaching, and it was only a matter of time until they worsened. I had to do something, anything, before it was too late. Although no immediate solutions came to mind. Good morning. Hope you don't mind, but I prepared some breakfast for you. Allow me to arrange the table for you.
ありがとうございます。なんだか慣れなくて妙な感じですね。
A little. I couldn't shake what Motoyama had said yesterday. That in staying here together, it was as if Iba and I were enjoying the pleasures of a honeymoon.
ごちそうさまでした。どれも本当に美味しかったです。
Really? I can't tell how much that means. I can't tell you how much that means to me. Iba wiped the side of his mouth with a cloth, and I posed him a question as I gathered our plates. Iba? I know it's difficult to admit, but doesn't walking around in sunlight hurt you? Don't you feel weaker at all?
まあ辛くないと言えば嘘になりますが。
Then from now on, allow me to manage all of your minutiae, including the welcoming of guests and posts. It is of the utmost importance that you feel well, so I want you to get all the rest that you can.
でもいいんですか？
Of course, it's the least I can do in return for you keeping me safe in your home.
ありがとうございます。あなたは本当に優しい人ですね。
Hey, Snowy! Oh, March 1868. You can cut the sexual tension with a knife. Oh, nice. Hi, Snowy. Hey, Tom. How you doing? Days floated blissfully in the blink of an eye, and one evening, Motoyama came to pay us a visit.
いやー、美味しかった。雪村さんって本当料理上手なんだね。
I really like this character. He provides the comical relief. Oh, please, you flatter me too much.
いや、すごく美味しかったって。でも、これからどうするんだよ、イバ。あんなに美味しいものを毎日食べてたら、他の女の子の手料理なんてもう食べられないだろう。
何を言ってるんですか？どうしてすぐ話をそっちの方向に？
せっかく星が綺麗な夜だし、この後パーッと飲みに出かけることにしようぜ。
I feel like his voice sounds a little familiar too. Motoyama threw his arm around Iba's shoulders, egging him on despite Iba's visible unwillingness.
若様、少しよろしいでしょうか。
All of us went quiet as one of Iba's servants called out to him nervously, poking his head out from behind a door left slightly ajar.
どうしました？
今しがた文が届いたもので、土方様からの手紙だそうです。
トシさんから？見せてください。
Upon Iba's command, the servant hastily slid the door open, tiptoeing into the room to hand Iba the letter. Motoyama and I were silent, watching the servant bow politely before scurrying out of the room. Iba delicately opened the letter's wax seal, taking a deep breath before scanning its contents. As his eyes traveled down the page, Iba furrowed his brow, and Motoyama and I glanced at one another.
どうしたんだよ、イバ。その手紙には何が書いてあるんだ？
Without saying a word, Iba shut his eyes and extended the letter over to Motoyama. The room was silent, save for the parchment wrinkling in Motoyama's hand. Before Motoyama finished reading, however, Iba shot up from his chair and stormed out of the room indignantly. Iba, wait! Whatever was in that letter had clearly unsettled Iba, and I couldn't help but feel nauseous from anxiety. I threw my handkerchief on the table and ran after him. What could I have said? Even while walking a few paces behind him, I could see the seething rage emanating from Iba. Iba! What did the letter say? Suddenly, Iba halted in his tracks, turning over his shoulder to glare at me with a grave expression. I held my breath as I awaited his response.
新選組は甲府で新政府軍と戦い敗れたそうです。
What? The Shinsengumi was crushed?
幕命を果たせずに終わった今、江戸にとどまることはできない。
Wait, who
で
died?
すからこの後、大使たちを率いて会津を目指すと。ですから今後もうしばらくあなたのことを頼みたいと、そう書かれていました。
Iba resumed his brisk pace, and I followed after him. Eventually, I realized he had led me to the Hatamoto mansion where the Shinsengumi had recently resided. To our dismay, the halls were eerily silent. Neither Sanan, Heisuke, nor the rest of the Fury Corps were anywhere to be found. Iba clambered out in fury, gritting his teeth as he tightly balled his hands into fists. The tips of his fingernails dug into his palms so intensely that I was certain he'd break the skin.
何が徳川の家臣だ、幕臣だ、旗本だ。
His voice reverberated throughout the empty halls, and I flinched from the shrill hiss of his sword as he pulled it from its sheath. Iba began swinging his sword wildly as if he were attacking an imaginary foe, breathed into life by the ache of his frustrations. It was as though he were possessed by something. He is possessed by something. I gasped from fear, barely able to draw breath. Part of me wondered, though, why he had taken it so personally, why he was lashing out himself. Iba seemed bent on letting his aggression consume him, ready to burn himself from the inside out. Then he took a minute to catch his breath, his shoulders moving up and down in exaggerated movements as he lowered his weapon. Why are you so upset? I asked him a question timidly, and through panted breaths he coldly offered his response.
新選組は、トシさんたちは新政府軍に勝つことを期待されて甲府へ行かされたわけではないんです。
So what were they sent for then?
幕府の教順派は彼らをわざと江戸から遠ざけたんです。新政府軍に江戸城を明け渡すとき、邪魔にならないように。
Though it was news to me, apparently Iba had known for some time that Edo Castle was guaranteed to our enemies, meaning that the Shinsengumi was misled. Upon hearing the news, I was positive that Iba was keenly aware of what the Imperial Army ultimately hoped to gain from this detestable arrangement.
今まで命を懸けて幕府のため、慶喜公のために戦ってくれた彼らを。
He has such a beautiful voice even when he's angry.
幕府は無残に切り捨てたんです。
Ooh, do you feel the anger in his voice?
これが徳川の家臣のすることか。日頃新選組の人たちを散々見下しておきながら戦いもせずに江戸城を明け渡すことが。
It was clear that Iba was severely distraught, and I was unaware he could ever become this angry. It's because of his demon arm. It's bringing out the emotions that he keeps, what's that word? Hidden? No. What's the word? He keeps bottled inside. Yes, that's what the word is. Finally, he heaved one last breath before shutting his eyes and muttering slowly.
僕も同じですよね。他の幕臣たちと同じように彼らを見殺しにしてしまった。
I wondered, if Iba had never fused the demon's arm to his body, then would he have been able to make a difference? You cannot interfere with human history. You cannot interfere with human conflict. Sen's words echoed in my brain like a bell. If he hadn't agreed to these conditions, then perhaps he could have fought alongside all of his dear friends. Well, just because he has a demon arm doesn't make him Oh wait, technically he's not even human anymore because he's also a fury. Okay, never mind. Surely I thought his desire to do so lingers. Comforting Iba in his wounded state was difficult, so I carefully deliberated what to tell him. Things aren't as they used to be. How could they be, really? Pixel. I know you're being pulled in so many directions. I can see it in your eyes. It's tearing you apart from the inside. Believe me, I know how much you respect Hichikata and the rest of the Shinsengumi men. No one thinks that you abandoned them, nor do you deserve to feel guilty for not being there. My attempt to comfort Iba may have sounded hollow, given that I had a very thin understanding of my conflicts plaguing his anxious mind. I couldn't bear to watch him sink into the depths of his own disappointment, and without at least trying, there's no telling what he might have done. Yeah! Yes!
ありがとうございます。今の言葉で少し救われた気持ちになりました。
It's what I do. Iba curled his lips into a bashful smile, but it was brief as he continued puckering his lips in thought. If only I could reach inside of him, shake him out of this forlorn stupor, so that I wouldn't have to feel so helpless. It was selfish, but what could be done? In the following days, silence floated behind every corridor in Iba's home. I often stepped outside to contemplate, counting the clouds in the sky to occupy myself as I thought of ways to lift Iba's spirits. Our conversations had been fairly minimal, and though he didn't always respond, I figured that I could at least tell him anything I had wanted to. But there were several obstacles to consider. Iba, perhaps more than anything, wanted to join the Shinsengumi's front lines in battle. What could I suggest that could substitute a possibly once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? Something finally changed on one fateful afternoon.
聞いてくれイバ朗報だぞ。
元山、どうしたんです？
He sounds so sad.
新選組や伝習隊の皆が江戸を出て会津を目指すってことを知って、俺たち遊撃隊も彼らに続こうってことになったんだよ。
それは本当ですか？
こんな嘘を言ってどうするんだ。新選組や伝習隊、もともとは武家の生まれじゃなかった奴らがあれだけの気概を見せてるんだから。幕臣の俺たちが何もしないなんて筋が通らないからな。
Iba fell silent, mouthing Motoyama's own words for a minute.
僕は参加できません。辞退すると伝えてください。
Why? Motoyama froze, blinking incredulously as Iba's response failed to register.
ちょっと待てよ。参加できないってどういう。
Is it because of his fury status?
事情があるんです。申し訳ありません。
おい、ちょっと待ってって。俺たちは徳川家の家臣だろ。お前だって標準派の連中のやり方に納得できないって散々言ってたじゃないか。今を逃したら戦う機会なんて二度と巡ってこないかもしれないんだぞ。
どうしても譲れない理由なんです。分かってください。
Motoyama opened his mouth to speak, but nothing else came of it, and I suppose he had sensed that Iba's refusal was the end of it.
もう少しだけ考えてみてくれ。俺はお前や遊撃隊の皆と一緒に戦いたい。幕臣は腰抜けの集まりじゃないってことを薩長に見せてやりたいんだ。氷を持ってきてある。
He's brought a what? Portmanteau? A basket weaved by willow or bamboo used as a luggage to store clothing while in transit. Oh, that's kind of a basket for luggage? Okay.
お前の筒袖が入ってるから、もし一緒に来てくれるつもりになったら使ってくれ。
必要ありません。
一緒に来てくれるつもりになったらって言ってるだろ。必要なかったら捨ててくれても構わないよ。
Motoyama glanced over at me and nodded his head before brusquely exiting the room. Are you really not going, Iba?
人間相手にこの力を振るってはならないとおせんさんに言われています。
Oh, Sen must have given him the arm from some demon that she knew. Oh, so you can't even... Oh, that's why. That's so sad. He can't even fight if he wanted to. But fighting is like his life.
僕が刀を振るう相手はあの武田さんと行動さん、そして彼らが率いる羅刹だけです。
Oh, so basically he can only fight Fury and... Oh, but technically the army is all Fury now, but I guess they don't know that yet. But open your eyes. The simmering tensions between the imperial forces and what remained of the shogunate were coming to a head and fast. What if Motoyama, Hijikata, and all of our other friends in the Shinsengumi lose their lives before we get a chance to see them? Oh shoot. Wouldn't the regret eat you alive? You might be sad now, but imagine if you had never got to say goodbye. Iba shut his eyes dramatically, and as if he were wincing from intense pain. But even so,
僕は武士ですから、一度交わした約束を破るわけにはいきません。
I could practically recite Iba's answer as it escaped his lips. Because both the Tokugawa affiliate daimyo and the Hideyoshi daimyo were beginning to abandon the shogunate. These desperate times further inspired Iba to uphold an honorable, albeit sentimental, ideal of his duties and his conception of a warrior. Unlike Motoyama, though, I refuse to take no as an answer. Then allow me to ask one favor of you. It is my intention to follow after the Shinsengumi men and reunite with their vanguard. So, I humbly ask that you accompany me as a bodyguard on the journey there. And since all of them are going to join forces sooner or later anyway, it would be safer for us to join the Yugeki unit's convoy, wouldn't it? A twinkle flickered in Iba's eyes.
それは
In this case, you aren't getting personally involved with the war, nor would you be necessarily affecting human history either. You're just a bodyguard taking care of one girl. Iba's mouth fell agape, and he was speechless for a second as I smirked wryly. After struggling to find the words, he returned a smile.
あなたって人は
Oh, he's smiling again.
そこまでして僕を新選組の皆のもとへ向かわせたいんですか？
Because I'm your childhood friend and I care about you. No, I'm the one who's meeting up with the Shinsengumi. You're just my bodyguard, Iba. There's no hiding my act of sophistry. But having recalled Iba's furious tantrum, the way his face tightened as he attacked shadows in the Shinsengumi's abandoned headquarters. Without a doubt, this was my best form of recourse. Besides, Takada and my father are working together to produce an army of furies. I can't help but think that when the opportunity arises, we're going to have to face that army.
確かにその通りですね。彼らを倒すのは僕の役目だ。わかりました。すぐ元山に返事をしましょう。
Yeah. Really? I'll grab the inkstone for you. I rushed up the staircase, heading for Iba's study to grab the brush and inkstone for him.
ありがとうございます。本当にありがとう。
Oh, he sounds so happy now. Sincerity dripped from his words, and it warmed my heart to see him smile like that again. Above anything, there was a selfish pleasure to be gained in catering to Iba's whims, one that I couldn't help from chasing at every opportunity. Later that evening, the two of us swiftly packed our things and discreetly began our departure from Edo.
こちらへ足音を立てないように。
Do you see his
気をつけてく
uniform?
ださい。
Okay, I gotta wait for it to zoom out so I can see. Oh! The camera panned down. Did this happen for the other guys too? I don't think so.
どうしたんです？
My character's staring at his chest. Oh my god, it'd be so funny if it went lower, but it's not gonna go lower because this is a rated M for mature game, not an 18 plus game. Down and then up. Oh, nothing. In his new uniform, Iba looked rather dashing, and I couldn't help myself from blushing in his presence. A tasteful gold trim lined the seams of his coat, adding a gallant flair to his poised, regal demeanor.
二人とも一応俺もいるってことを忘れちゃ困るんだけどな。
This friend. Hey, you two. In case you've forgotten, I'm still here. I know. I haven't forgotten.
それじゃあ行くぞ。ようやく戦う機会が巡ってきたんだからな。
ええ、分かっています。
He also doesn't look as good as Iba, too. All of us held our breaths, nodding towards one another before sprinting out of Ito's castle town. We set off for Kazasano Kuni and the Josai domain, casting our fates into the wind with heads held high.